For most of modern history, one assumption quietly shaped everything we believed about our past. That assumption was simple. Before humans built cities, they didn't map the world. Before agriculture, there was no reason to record land. Before civilization, there was no understanding of scale, distance, or geography. Maps, we were taught, came late. They were the product of settled life. Of borders. Of ownership. Of control. Anything older than 6,000 years was assumed to be symbolic. Decorative. Mythical. A guess, at best. That assumption is now collapsing. Not because of a new ruin rising from the ground. Not because of a lost city discovered in a jungle. But because an artificial intelligence system looked at something humanity had already found, and saw what we never did. A map. One that should not exist. One that predates civilization as we know it. One that describes a world that no longer exists. And one that forces us to reconsider how early humans understood the planet they lived on. This is the story of how AI decoded a 12,000-year-old map, and why its meaning changes everything. The artifact itself was never considered important. It wasn't large. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't depict kings, gods, or monsters. It was a flat stone slab, fractured into several pieces, discovered decades ago during an early excavation and catalogued alongside thousands of other carvings. Its surface was worn smooth in places. Shallow grooves ran across it in uneven directions. Some lines intersected. Others faded out mid-path. To the human eye, it looked inconsistent. Chaotic. Primitive. So it was labeled as ritual art. Possibly symbolic. Possibly ceremonial. Possibly meaningless. And then it was archived. For years, no one questioned that classification. The object didn't fit what scholars were looking for. It didn't show writing. It didn't show figures. It didn't show power. It showed land. And land, without context, tells us nothing. Or so we believed. Traditional archaeology relies on familiar anchors. Language. Iconography. Known symbols. Recognizable structures. This object had none of them. There was no compass rose. No north indicator. No labels. No scale that made sense. Some sections were tightly detailed. Others were almost empty. Certain lines were deeply etched. Others barely scratched the surface. No two areas followed the same visual logic. Human researchers tried to interpret it as a story. Then as a myth. Then as a symbolic journey. Nothing held together. Eventually, the conclusion became comfortable: it wasn't meant to be read. It was decorative. Abstract. Spiritual. And so it remained unread. Until it was scanned. The AI system wasn't built to decode history. It was designed for pattern recognition. Trained on thousands of images, ancient carvings, maps, cave engravings, land surveys, river systems, topography, erosion patterns, and geometric layouts. It didn't care about myths. It didn't care about dates. It didn't care about academic consensus. It only asked one question: is there structure here? When the fragmented stone was digitized and fed into the system, no one expected a result. Then the AI flagged an anomaly. Not once. Not twice. But repeatedly. The spacing between grooves followed ratios. The angles between intersecting lines repeated across different fragments. What looked random, wasn't. The geometry was intentional. The AI did not interpret the markings as symbols. It interpreted them as data. Distances repeated in consistent proportions. Curves matched natural erosion boundaries. Line thickness correlated with depth changes. This wasn't art. This was terrain. The shallow grooves represented lowlands. The deeper cuts marked elevation shifts. Curved lines traced water paths. The AI reconstructed the fragments digitally, aligning breaks using predictive modeling. For the first time since it was carved, the object appeared whole. And when that happened, something became immediately clear. This was not a symbolic map. It was a literal one. The reconstructed map showed no settlements. No walls. No fortifications. No cities. No borders. There were no signs of territory or control. Only land. Rivers flowed uninterrupted. Coastlines curved naturally. Mountain ranges stretched without division. This wasn't a map of power. It was a map of movement. A map designed to understand how the world connects, not who owns it. That alone made it unusual. But the real shock came when the AI compared it to modern geography. Carbon dating placed the artifact at roughly 12,000 years old. That date sits at a dangerous point in human history. Right at the end of the last ice age. Right before sea levels rose dramatically. Right before coastlines changed forever. According to established history, humans at that time were hunter-gatherers. Nomadic. Localized. Surviving day to day. They were not supposed to be mapping continents. Yet when the AI overlaid the ancient map onto modern satellite data, something impossible appeared. The coastlines matched. Not today's coastlines. Older ones. Large sections of the map depicted land that is now submerged. Plains beneath shallow seas. River systems that no longer flow. Coastal shelves erased by rising water. These weren't guesses. The contours aligned with paleogeographic reconstructions of Earth as it existed more than 10,000 years ago. The map did not predict the future. It recorded the present, a present that no longer exists. Which raises an uncomfortable question. Who mapped land that would soon disappear? Oral tradition can preserve stories. It can preserve names. It can preserve meaning. It cannot preserve precision. This map required measurement. Observation. Consistency across distance. It described areas far beyond a single group's seasonal range. Someone, somewhere, had a broader view of the world. Not as rulers. Not as builders. But as observers. Another anomaly emerged. The map was not oriented north-south. At first, this seemed like a mistake. Then the AI adjusted the reference frame. Instead of magnetic north, it aligned the map to celestial markers. The orientation matched stellar patterns visible at that latitude 12,000 years ago. The map was aligned to the sky. This suggests navigation by stars, not as mythology, but as practical reference. Movement guided by the heavens, not borders. When the AI analyzed emphasis across the map, it noticed something strange. The most detailed areas were not where humans would later build cities. They were corridors. Valleys between mountain ranges. Passable river crossings. Coastal routes sheltered from storms. The map did not care where people lived. It cared where people moved. This was a map for migration. There were no capitals. No centers. No hierarchy. Just pathways. This implies a worldview fundamentally different from later civilizations. A humanity that understood the planet as a system, not a collection of possessions. And that understanding did not survive. The AI then compared this map to other carvings previously dismissed as abstract. Different regions. Different materials. Different excavation sites. The patterns matched. Not perfectly, but consistently. Same ratios. Same encoding logic. Same treatment of elevation and water. These were not copies. They were variations of the same system. Which means this was not the work of one group. It was shared knowledge. There was no central symbol. No ruling icon. No divine marker. Nothing suggested control. The system didn't require kings or priests. It required understanding. That may be why it vanished. As the Ice Age ended, the world changed fast. Sea levels rose. Routes disappeared. Plains flooded. Coastlines fractured. The map became obsolete. And when knowledge stops being useful, it stops being taught. Human survival narrowed. Groups settled. Farming replaced movement. Local knowledge replaced global awareness. The map was no longer needed. So it was forgotten. Humanity didn't collapse. It adapted. But in adapting, it lost something. The ability to see the planet as a whole. Civilization rose, but vision shrank. This discovery did not create new history. It revealed ignored history. The map was always there. What changed was how we looked at it. Humans search for stories of dominance. AI searches for structure. And structure told a different story. When researchers aligned this map with known climate events, a pattern emerged. Major environmental shifts correlate with knowledge loss. Not extinction. Reset. Humanity rebuilds, but not always from the highest point it reached. We assume progress is linear. This map suggests otherwise. Knowledge rises. Knowledge falls. Survival continues. We may not be the first humans to understand Earth deeply. We are simply the latest to try again. Human bias favors monuments. Cities. Temples. Walls. We look for power. This map represents humility. Movement. Adaptation. Awareness. It did not fit our expectations. So we ignored it. The map shows a world erased by change. Not by war. Not by collapse. By environment. It is a record of impermanence. A reminder that knowledge tied too tightly to the present does not survive the future. This artifact does not answer everything. It raises better questions. What else have we misclassified? What other systems are hiding in plain sight? How much of early human intelligence was lost simply because it didn't look like power? The map does not explain itself. It does not tell us who made it. It does not claim greatness. It simply exists. Pointing to a time when humans understood the world not as rulers, but as participants. And it leaves us with one final question. If humanity once mapped a world that no longer exists, what world are we mapping today, that will one day disappear? This video explores interpretations based on archaeological artifacts, AI-assisted pattern analysis, and current scientific debate. Interpretations may evolve as new evidence emerges.